You're listening to the Renegade Business Success Radio Network, breaking the chains of the struggling entrepreneur 24/7. Always delivering real, actionable business strategies for you to implement today.
I'm Kim Carson, and today my conversation is with Clark Pierson, who is the author of the new book, The Ultimate Guide to Merchant Account Sales Success and Huge Residual Income. He's also the CEO of MLS Nation and the creator of the Ultimate Residual Income Machine. He personally built a lifetime monthly residual income of $18,000 in only 12 months. Do the math. Today, he's going to share 3 top strategies to help you replicate his success. Thanks so much for talking to me today, Clark, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kim. It's good to be here.
So, Clark, you have these 3 top secret strategies, these valuable things that you've learned. So let's start off with the first one. What is that?
Okay, Kim, number 1 is, you really need to follow a proven success system. So you could call it a blueprint if you wanted, but really something that's no fluff and no theory. It's really a system that's duplicatable by anyone, and they have the ability to take our system, and you don't have to be a rock star. You don't have to have thick skin. You're able to take this system and guarantee results.
Well, Clark, but you say that the system should not have fluff or theory. What do you mean by that?
Well, it might be kind of silly, but I'll provide just a quick example. Is if you had back surgery and you were going to go in to have surgery on your back, you wouldn't go to a surgeon that had never operated on a back before.
Right.
Or another example, if you were going to an attorney and you were being sued, you wouldn't go to an attorney that's never been in a courtroom. And it's amazing that independent sales organizations across the U.S. Are really full of fluff and stuff. And I was involved in a couple of them, and it was just hard to believe that many of the executives that run these sales organizations have literally never sold a merchant account before. It's hard to believe, but it is true. And then the second thing is that their objective. This is really hard to believe, and I think you just got to recognize their objective is not to develop and train professional sales agents. Their objective is to acquire merchant accounts. And what that means is that if you're a new agent and you come in and you sell 1 or 2 or 3 merchant accounts, first of all, they've spent no money on you up front.
Right.
So they really got nothing invested in you. They may have sent you an email. But their objective is to get 2 or 3 or 4 merchant accounts out of you. And then what happens is that after you leave, because you're discouraged, with no training, no motivation, then they just keep 100% of the merchant account. So it's a great business model for them. It really sucks for everybody else, but for them, it absolutely works.
Yeah, and you talk about these success systems. So what are some of those specific qualities, say, that a good success system has in order for it to be effective, in your opinion?
Well, I'll just give you a few, and it really has to include a formula that can be followed by anyone, and it has to be duplicatable. That's an important word in our business because I think a lot of times, again, it's these high-powered agents that are having success, and everybody else, the other 95% of agents, are just going to this industry for a day or 2 or a week or 2, and then they move on. But it's got to be duplicatable. Anyone's got to be able to follow it, which means that it needs to be ultra-specific in nature, and it needs to be extremely simplistic for really speed and the ability to follow through. And if things aren't simple, we as human beings tend to really discontinue them. But what we do is we provide a system. What we ask our account executives to do is really provide energy, discipline, and execution.
Yeah, I mean, you're an expert in this. You must have seen everything. I mean, all different kinds of results. So when merchant-level salespeople follow a good system, what kind of results can they expect?
Well, and it's a good question. I think the results, are unlimited. And I think that's one of the great things about this industry, and there's few industries you could say this about, is that whatever you can create in your mind, you could achieve. You can achieve. And instead of random and erratic acts of success here and there, they'll have success. It's not about that. It's about being predictable. It's about being sustainable. It's about acquiring new deals week after week, month after month. And it really is important to understand. This might be one of the most important things we talk about today is that when a person has a plan or a system or a blueprint, whatever you want to call it, it completely takes the pressure off of the salesperson which is normally where it is, and it puts it on the system. So it provides less stress. It gives confidence to the agent, and the agent has the ability to thrive and survive because he or she puts the pressure on the system and not on themselves.
Yeah. Today, my conversation is with Clark Pierson, who's the author of the new book, The Ultimate Guide to Merchant Account Sales Success and Huge Residual Income. We're talking all about that. Clark, tell me about the second top secret strategy.
Well, again, we could probably put 100 things down, but for us and for myself, I think this is critical, is that you have to work with experienced people. And I say people, it's really coaching, mentoring, really with somebody that's actually done it before. And, so you got to have somebody that you're accountable to. I think you have to have somebody that's on the same page, that you form a mastermind alliance with, that really gives you help and creates value for you.
But what if a salesperson already has a good success system? I mean, why do they need a mentor or a coach?
That's one of the questions I get asked more than any other question, is that, there's a couple things I think. Number one is that, merchant level salespeople are the loneliest people in the world. I mean, some of the most high paid, which is terrific, but they're some of the loneliest. And if it wasn't like that, everybody would do it. So we really look at a coach to being a mentor and a teacher. And I want to talk about one other thing that I think is critical, and that is that I believe in something called the 3 ingredients of success. And I learned about that when I was 21 years old, and I really tried to implement that in my entire life. And I do believe that you can't accomplish anything in your life without applying these 3 principles. And it's literally, you have to be inspired to do something. I mean, you have to, if you want to drink a glass of water, you have to be inspired to go over to the tap and fill it up, or go open a bottled water and fill it up. You got to be inspired to do something in life. And I think the second thing is, you just got to have activity knowledge. I think activity knowledge you can acquire a lot of different ways. You can acquire it through reading, through other people, through study. But you have to know about your competition. You have to know about your own products. And I think the challenge is that's where many people, if not most people, stop. And I think this one thing prevents more failure than almost anything else out there. And the third ingredient that needs to be mastered and worked at is just know-how. And it's know-how is really knowing how to do something. It's a technique. It's not theory. And again, most salespeople lack this. And I think you ask yourself, why would a professional athlete, why would LeBron James have a personal trainer?
Right.
Why? I mean, it's because a personal trainer helps with inspiration and know-how. And I think that's important. The other thing I look at, I think this is interesting to me, is that I look at studies of professions in terms of incomes and the rankings of certain professions. And when you think about a college professors are some of the smartest, most educated, driven individuals on the face of the earth, and they really are. But they're always at the very bottom when it comes to income.
Yeah.
And the reason is again, they're very motivated. I mean, they went through school. They had a master's degree. They were motivated. They read 1,000 books. They're very smart, but everything, for the most part, and this no offense to the professor if you're listening, but for the most part, a professor lacks know-how. He or she's just never done it before. They've talked about it for 25 years, but never really done it before. And so we really use our coaches to teach know-how. And I think that's one of the big differences between us and really any other organization out there.
Okay, but to get back to, say, mentoring, like, when's it too much or too little? I mean, how involved should a mentor be with their students, say, on a day-to-day level?
Well, I think that just really depends upon the student. And I think some like lots of coaching up front, and some like very little coaching up front. They just need to be, pointed in the right direction. But it's really a partnership. I think that's what you have to get back to. This is a partnership. I call it a mastermind alliance, to where you got to work together. Very few things in life are ever accomplished by any one individual. I think if you look at some of the unbelievable individuals in our lifetime, I mean, Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie and Ford and Stone, they all created a mastermind with someone. And I probably get this wrong, but I think Henry Ford had a second or third degree elementary education. but he surrounded himself with people that knew how to get things done. And so I think that's important. I think that's what we focus on.
I imagine that you've seen a lot. I mean, you're doing it, you're living it. But like when a salesperson starts taking advantage of an experienced mentor, say, in your opinion, how do you think their results might differ from those who are, say, mentorless?
Well, that's a great question. Again, the thing I do know is that they get off to a slower start. They're definitely less organized in a complicated industry. We're in a complicated industry, and they're less organized because they really don't know what to do coming out of the gate. And they make mistakes that cost them for months and years. They don't really get early success. I think that's important. I mean, I played college football, and I related to this. I mean, if I had my playbook sent to me my first year in college, sent to me in the mail 2 weeks before, and they said, "Well, study up and we'll talk about it." And I learn all my plays and I go through it. If the coach doesn't show up on the first day of practice, that what could I do? How would that work? It wouldn't. And so I think this is about giving someone confidence, helping them along the way, getting them off to a fast start. I would tell you the other thing, and again, I love momentum. I think everybody does when you're on the right side of momentum. But if you're on the wrong side of momentum, it's tough to get it back, and it's tough to get it started. But if you're on the right side of momentum, in basketball, you score 20 straight points, and the opposition can't do anything.
Right.
No matter what they do, they can't do anything because the other team has momentum. And so we really do believe in fast start. We think it's important to anyone's career. We do know this, is that 62% of our agents that sell something in their first week go on to have a productive career with us.
Wow.
Less than 5%, if they don't sell something in their first week, have a productive career with us. So I mean, that's all you knew, then you'd figure out a way to get off to a fast start.
Yeah, so interesting. My conversation is with Clark Pierson, who's the author of the new book, The Ultimate Guide to Merchant Account Sales Success and Huge Residual Income. We're talking about the 3 top strategies to help you replicate his success. So, okay, we're up to the 3rd now, and the last top secret. Go for it.
All right. Well, this is a big one, and I think most people would buy into this, and that is that you really need to associate with those that know how to do what they're doing. In other words, the industry's best on a regular basis. And, at least weekly, but hopefully daily or every other day. And you're able to learn what's working and what's not working and what can I do today to sell merchant accounts. So, again, at the end of the day, it's really just working with professionals on a daily basis, weekly basis, that know what the heck they're doing so that you have an opportunity to be successful.
Yeah, you kind of have an advantage with someone who's already navigated it, Clark, can you expand a little bit on where this strategy fits in with the success system that we talked about earlier and the experienced mentor you also talked about earlier?
Well, I think that's the good news, and ongoing training and mentorship provides many things. I would just name a couple of them. It really provides training. I mean, I think we talked about the 3 ingredients to success earlier. Training. I mean, it provides training. It provides inspiration. It provides recognition. I think, I've worked with thousands and thousands of salespeople over the years, and that's probably the one thing most salespeople would tell you they lack is recognition. So we want to recognize our people. We're about forming a mastermind to help them, providing strategy, and then one thing you don't think about, I think, sometimes is that communication and mentorship also provides imposed accountability, self-imposed accountability. I think that's important.
Yeah, and what kind of I'm thinking about was something you said earlier when you talked about salespeople and loneliness. So, like, where do these salespeople go, and what do they do in order to, say, associate with the industry's very best on a weekly basis? I know this probably sounds impossible for a lot of salespeople who go at it alone on a daily basis that are listening right now.
Well, it's incredible to think about that in a billion dollar plus industry. There's almost no training, and I have a background. I was an insurance executive with a Fortune 500 company for almost 20 years, and in the insurance industry, in the banking industry, in the real estate industry, it's highly regulated, and there's good, tough competition, and they provide training, but not in this industry. And I wake up every morning and I think that this just can't be, because we don't have. I wouldn't say that we don't have legitimate competition, because we do, but people are very interested in being trained, and you see very, very little of it in this industry. I mean, I do know the company that I manage, which is MLS Nation. We have daily, weekly mentoring for those at any level, not just a superstar, but for those at any level. If you're in your first day with us, we teach you a success system that never fails, and as long as you work the system will pay off 100% of the time.
So, Clark, when you kind of reflect on what you've seen, what are the primary differences between those who actually implement the strategy, your strategy, and then those who don't?
Well, I think it's interesting that because of our unique system, our members, they would literally crawl through broken glass on their hands and knees to be on a live weekly conference call, because they just don't get that anywhere else. And so we don't take roll call. We know who's on the call and who's not on the call, and we normally have nearly 100% attendance because of that. And I think it's hard to believe. The second thing would be it's just hard to believe that the average person in America today spends less than $100 per year in educating themselves and really to help transform their lives, and yet they wonder why they're struggling. I mean, that's literally 27 cents a day the average person in America spends. And I've always believed, and I do believe, that the most successful people are those who are not afraid to invest in themselves.
Yeah, and it's just such a fascinating topic. When you kind of put it in a nutshell, you've seen a lot, you've worked with a lot of people. So what's the number one mistake you would say that merchant-level salespeople make when they're trying to build the residual fast?
Well, for me, that's an easy question, because it's important in my life, and I think it's important in many that I work with and have managed over the years. And it goes back to the person's why. And, we always talk about how, and the how is so important. And 90% of the questions I get when I'm out working with sales agents and managers across the nation, 90% of the time I get questions on how did they do that, or how is that done? And, to me, it's dumb, because they should be asking me, why is a person doing something? Because if your why is strong enough, you will figure out the how. The how doesn't matter at the end of the day if your why is strong enough. I think that's really important to keep in mind. And I think the second part of that answer would be is that you just got to get into action now. And I use a self-motivator every day of my life, multiple times a day. Do it now, and I repeat that to myself: do it now, do it now. If I don't want to do something, then I just say do it now. It goes into my subconscious mind, and then it's in there. And so anytime I don't want to do anything or do something, all of a sudden in my conscious mind starts telling myself, do it now, and I just do it. And I think sales executives are used to spending a lot of time in prep work, and I think that can be important sometimes. But my philosophy is that it's 10% execution and 90% strategy, and that would probably be opposite of what many people might tell you. But I think that's true. You prepare 10%, but you've got to get out and do it. And I think most have it backwards. And so here's what I would say. I guess here's what I know. Is that if you take my top 3 secret strategies for building large monthly residual income, which are follow the system, the blueprint, whatever you want to call it, work with a mentor, a coach who has actually done it, and then just associate with winners and leaders that can help you, get there by training and mentorship. If you do that, I will guarantee that you will achieve your personal, family, financial, and business goals.
That is some good stuff. Thank you so much, Clark. Amazing things as I expected. If anyone listening wants to get involved with your system and MLS Nation so they can start creating a large monthly residual like you, what should their next step be?
Okay, I appreciate you asking that. Don't try and call my phone as it's really only on for certain periods of the day, and I work exclusively by appointment. In fact, I don't even look at my email. I don't answer. I don't respond to email. I really just respond via fax, which goes right to my assistant, the screen. But the absolute fastest way to get involved with MLS Nation and the Ultimate Residual Income Machine is to go to www.mlsnation.com/URIM. And I'll just repeat that one more time, www.mlsnation.com/URIM. Thank you very much, Kim.
Thank you so much for the conversation, Clark.
Thanks for listening to the Renegade Business Success Radio Network, dedicated to your wild success.